What if the life that you are currently living isn't the life that you were truly meant to live? What if you ended up staying in relationships, friendships, or even accepting being in different environments that has actually been hurting you? Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system learned that pain was normal. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to my channel. If you are new, welcome. If you are coming back, welcome back. I'm so glad to have you. My name is Cassie, and on this channel, we talk all things of healing, self-love, and self-care, and of course, becoming your dream woman. And if you feel blessed by this video, I would love for you to support me by buying me a coffee, and I will leave that link in the description. But yeah, so have you ever wondered if the life that you are living is truly the life that you are meant to live? Is that why you were created, to live the life that you currently are? Because I'm going to tell you no. Right? Just from my own experiences. It's probably not. And I know that feeling because I lived it, right? I lived that feeling where I felt like it was, but it truly wasn't. And for years, I struggled because I didn't love myself. I judged myself. I carried shame. I believed that this was simply the life that I was given. But after, walking through my healing journey with God, everything changed. So today I want to share what healing has taught me and why I ended up staying longer than I should have, and why the peace waiting for you on the other side of this is possible for you. Healing gave me something that I had never really experienced before, and that was a change in my perspective. For years, I was living from a place of survival. I didn't love myself. In fact, if I'm being honest, I despised parts of myself. I judged my past. I judged my decisions. I judged everything that I hadn't accomplished. But healing has actually helped me realize something incredibly important. And that is, every chapter of my story, even the painful ones, was actually part of me becoming the woman that I am today. We feel so bad about ourselves because the world, and I think a lot of family members too, they make you kind of look at what you have, right, as a measure of how well you're doing in your life. So the house that you live in, the cars that you have, the job that you have, all of these things makes you my worth was, right? But that is not true. Sometimes we are given these different circumstances in our lives for us to learn lessons that we need to learn in order to become a stronger, better version of ourselves. And sometimes that doesn't look like the best. Doesn't look like we have our shit together. It doesn't look like things are actually going to work out for you. With all that being said, would I choose some of these same experiences again? No, absolutely not. I wouldn't. But, God used every one of those different situations to teach me something valuable. And sometimes the greatest lessons come from our hardest seasons. So one of the biggest things that healing has taught me is that people don't stay in unhealthy situations because they are weak. No, they stay because these unhealthy circumstances feel familiar. When you grow up without feeling emotionally safe, and love isn't practiced consistently or shown consistently, when your needs aren't honored, your nervous system begins to believe, this is normal. And guess what? Even though that you're not happy, you're still alive, and that is good enough for your nervous system and your mind to make you feel like it's okay. So even when something hurts you, your body says, oh, I know this. That's why so many people stay. Not because they're happy, but because it's familiar. And, unfortunately, in our lives, we will choose the familiar hell over the unfamiliar heaven. I spent years communicating how I felt to others, explaining, crying, begging to be understood. But it all felt like I was talking to walls. Nothing ended up changing, and eventually I started believing that maybe I didn't even deserve better. But people often think that childhood ends at 18, but it doesn't. And what happens in our childhood really dictates our adult years. And one thing that I've learned as well, a long time ago, but it really had to sink in until I kind of really started this healing journey and started really piecing everything together, is that our brains aren't even fully developed, I believe, until 27 years old. Maybe 25 for women and 27 for men. I could be wrong, but either 25 or 27, okay? So even at 19 years old, 20 years old, your brain still isn't even fully developed. And what happens in your childhood follows you, right? It shapes our beliefs, it shapes our relationships, it shapes what we tolerate. And if nobody ended up teaching you boundaries, you don't have them, because that was never something that was taught. If nobody in front of you modeled healthy love, you don't know what that looks like. If criticism felt normal, you're gonna accept it from everybody because that's just what your life has been. If disrespect felt normal, it's gonna continue to feel that way. And then you'll end up realizing that you are creating the same dynamics in your adult life that you lived in your childhood without even really realizing it. And because of that, I ended up staying because my nervous system believed staying was safer than leaving. And one of the biggest lies that I believed was that this is as good as it's gonna get. Right? As I tried to do all these different things, I tried to make my life better in so many areas, but I kept on hitting walls. And I was worried about money. I was worried about being alone. I was worried about raising my children. I was worried about starting over and what that would even look like. And I thought, man, if we are struggling together, how in the hell am I going to be able to make it by myself? So unfortunately, that fear had left me in a situation that I was really scared of leaving because of that. Fear became my internal prison. But fear is also something that can hold you back from even making the slightest betterment, right, of your life. Because we all have fear, even fear of starting a new job, fear of going to the new gym, right? Fear of all of these different things. What we have to really realize, especially when that fear starts coming up, is that we never overcome the fear until we go through it. To go to that first day on that new job, maybe not the first day, maybe the first like week, that fear kind of subsides, right? Every day kind of gets less and less, and you're feeling more confidence. Or even the same thing with the gym and so on. So the message today that I want to tell you is don't let fear keep you in a prison that you don't want to be in, right? Don't let the fear be your prison. And people used to tell me that time heals all wounds, right? No, it doesn't. Time doesn't heal, honey. It can make things feel less powerful in the moments, but it doesn't heal. It still sits there in the background, dictating how you are living your life. You can spend 20 years carrying the same pain. Or today you can decide that you are no longer willing to let your past control your future. Healing does take work and dedication. It takes repetition. It takes honesty. It takes rewiring your thoughts with new beliefs, with your new life, things to start kind of settling in. It takes learning to regulate your nervous system and having your nervous system accept a new normal of what feels healthy and good. It also takes facing your emotions that you have spent years avoiding. But every single step is so worth it in the end. Because I ended up spending the last 3 years, just me and God, really. And people questioned it, people wondered, and some actually assumed that I was lonely. And at times I was lonely. But I also learned that I'd rather be lonely than around people who don't have the best interest in me and where I want to go, right? And that's one thing you learn on your healing journey as well. During these 3 years, it's been one of the greatest gifts that I could have ever given myself. Because, this allowed me to find the true me again. The me that lost herself in all of these other life situations. Learned who I actually was and what I liked. Not who trauma made me become, not who survival mode forced me to be, but the woman who God has been working with to help me create. And healing changes far more things than just your relationships. It changes your identity, your confidence, your parenting styles, your friendships, your finances, your relationship with God, the way that you speak, the way that you think, and even the way that you respond. It ends up changing everything. Healing is so powerful. Thing that I noticed along my journey that I ended up stopping reacting to everything. And people who once knew how to trigger me, they couldn't anymore. They tried for years. They still try to this day in some of them, okay? Yes, they do. But because I took my power back, they no longer have that control over me. And that makes me feel so damn good, to be honest. And because I did that, I have emotional maturity where I'm not so reactive. And that is what healing looks like. Sometimes even your greatest response is actually no response. Because not every battle deserves your energy, your time, or your effort. One painful lesson that I had to accept was that unfortunately, you cannot help someone heal who doesn't want healing. I invited people along to heal with me along on my journey, but they all said no. They made excuses. They all said, oh, that's for you, not for me. Oh, I will, and all of these different things. It was actually in the very beginning of my healing that this was all heard. And it was hurtful, but eventually I realized that I couldn't keep shrinking myself, waiting for someone else to want to grow with me, who would want to take this journey and become a different version of themselves. So sometimes loving yourself means creating distance, even from the people that you love. And everything changed when I started on my healing journey. God invited me to heal. And honestly, at that time, I didn't really know what that was going to look like. But I accepted that invitation. And I am so glad that I did. Even though not every season was good, it all didn't feel good, right? But healing doesn't feel good. And a lot of the things, but he didn't just heal my heart. He actually helps heal my mindsets, my self-worth, my identity, my relationship with money. Taught me how to overcome my fears, taught me to have new beliefs. He taught me how to be emotionally mature, how to do nervous system work. He also taught me how to work through my trauma, create boundaries. He even taught me about the masculine and feminine energy dynamics. He revealed layer after layer with me. And that is something that made me grow in ways that I never thought was even possible for me. So healing with God isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole again. It's about expansion. It's about knowing all of these different things that you have struggled with for years, right? Like that whole masculine and feminine dynamic. I struggled with that for a long time. I was in my masculine energy. And now I have learned that I can be in both. And that is a very healthy thing. So it's been a beautiful journey. Healing with God and Him knowing what I truly needed help with, right? And Him actually, showing me that I needed to shift my identity. And that was one of the biggest things that needs to happen when you're on your healing journey. Because you can heal, but if you don't shift your identity into that healed version of yourself, into this renewed person, you're gonna end up still making decisions like your unhealed self. Not consciously, but subconsciously. Because you're not telling yourself that you are this new version of you. And that's why that identity shifting is so important. Another thing that I have learned is that I need to just stop settling. I stayed in situations, I stayed in my marriage for much longer than I should have because of my kids. I stayed because of finances. And if you're staying because of these things, or that you're afraid no one else will love you, I want you to hear this loud and clear. Your children learn how a healthy relationship dynamic looks by watching yours, okay? They learn to have self-worth by watching how you treat yourself. So you grown up, right, and you didn't have all of these things modeled, and now you are doing the same thing because you don't know any better, right? Or maybe you didn't realize what a big deal that is at this point in your life. You are doing your children a disservice because then they're going to have to heal and do a whole bunch of work on themselves. And they still may have to do a bit of healing, but the sooner you can start correcting this behavior, the better off you will be and your children will be as well. Because you know what? You deserve the life of your dreams. You deserve the life that you've always dreamed of having. You deserve to have peace, have respect, and have emotional safety. You deserve a healthy love, even if that is with yourself. Because it all starts with you, right? If you don't love yourself, no one else can love you. Don't confuse it feels familiar with safety. Don't stay in these situations because, oh, you're just so used to it. No. Is goodness on the other side of leaving, finding yourself, and healing. It may not always be pretty at first, but it will get better. If no one has told you recently, I would love to tell you that I'm proud of you. Proud of you that you are even here today listening to this video, especially if you have made it this far, because that just means that you truly want something different for yourself. And that decision of wanting to change, of saying, yes, I'm ready to make this move, I'm ready to make this change, can be a life-changing decision for you. Healing doesn't happen overnight, but one day you'll end up waking up and you'll realize that the things that once broke you no longer have power over you. And that's one of the most beautiful gifts that you'll ever experience. So if this message has encouraged you, make sure to subscribe, like the video, because every week we talk about healing, self-worth and self-care, becoming your dream woman, and talking about my journey with God and so much more. If you feel like you are ready to begin your own healing journey, I have linked my 10-module self-worth healing program in the description. It is the same framework that has helped me rebuild my life from the inside out by addressing self-worth, the self-sabotaging tendencies that I had, identity shifts that I needed to make, my emotional healing, and renewing your mindset every day by affirming a new story that you want to live. And remember, healing isn't just about becoming someone new. It's about becoming the woman who God created you to be all along. So I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.